Lockdown Coffee. It's episode 7, and we're in week 9 of lockdown, I think. I'm losing count. The only thing I know for sure is it's a Thursday, because we record this on a Thursday. If you're watching this on any other day, I'm really sorry. I've just confused you. Today, we are going to talk about success stories in industry, and we have Sonia Carvalho from Restaurant Associates at Compass, Duncan Kendall from Extract Coffee, and Max Dubiel, my trusty sidekick from Redemption. And we're going to be talking about some of those great things that have been happening where clients of various different wholesalers and the contract caterers obviously are doing really good things during really challenging times. But before we talk about other people, let's just have a bit of self-love. And Sonia, Duncan and Max, how have you been getting on in the last 9 weeks? What's been happening for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a crazy ride so far, which is insane because I haven't really gone anywhere. But yeah, it's been as I was saying before, it's been really busy for us. I think there's a lot of people who are responding differently, clients are responding differently, and I've just been trying to crack on and take every day as it comes. Keep doing positive things every day and keep myself going. So yeah.
Brilliant. How about you, Duncan?
I've started to get out and about a little bit more now, actually. So our roastery, we're split between Bristol and London. So our roastery is in Bristol. We have a little base in London. So I've been, over the last couple of weeks, I've been getting back down into Bristol because our roastery has been open the whole time. We haven't shut the roastery at all over the last 8-9 weeks, which has been good. So I've been, I guess, balancing my time between, I'm based in the southeast of London. So in between homeworking, like 99% of the world, getting into the roastery, which is still a hive of activity, which is great to go and be a part of, and homeschooling as well. So I have the added delight of three children that well, my wife's homeschooling. I'm watching.
You're pretending.
Yeah, I'm learning how to homeschool.
There's some great procrastinating dad videos out there about how to avoid homeschooling and everything. I'm sure you've all seen them. And how's things been for you, Max, the last week or so?
Jamie summarized it quite well before we recorded last week. He said, you're never really on and you're never really off during this time. And I think that summarized it really well. And that summarizes the challenge that one has for a business, but also I think for mental health, in terms that you have to constantly be alert and circumstances are changing all the time. At the same time, you're sort of sitting tight and waiting if you're in the hospitality game, for sure, because your business is bound to be shut or largely shut at the moment. But yeah, having a routine has helped me personally, for sure. Still setting an alarm clock at a certain time and then having a certain morning coffee routine, and we're getting the whole team, the whole Redemption team together in a Zoom call every other week, just to give updates, share stories, that kind of thing. So that's helped in this weird time.
Yeah, I think we'll probably be touching a bit more on mental health next week, actually, because we have a load of baristas. What is the collective term for barista? I think we'll have to think of one. But we'll be having some baristas and we'll be chatting about that, because it's true, isn't it? You just sort of, one day you feel absolutely great and it's lovely, you're in a lovely bubble and you can do the gardening or you can decorate, and then the next day it's like your hair, it's falling out and you're going crazy. And I think we're all going through that. It's really interesting to hear you out and about, Duncan. So at the roastery, I mean, I've been in roasteries, they're pretty huge, so it must be simple enough to have social distancing measures in place.
Yeah, I mean, we've that's been something that's been hugely important over the whole period. But I guess a week or so ago, the government issued some newer guidelines on working safely. So we actually had a hangout on Friday last week with the whole team, those that are furloughed and those that are not, because it's such an important thing that we wanted to make sure that everybody knew how we were adapting, what we were doing to make sure people were safe. So yeah, I mean, look, it's relatively simple to stay pretty well distanced. We've got 5 roasting machines, we've got packing areas, we've got areas that we can mark out to make sure people are distanced, and we do a safety check every morning. We have 5 questions that we ask everybody in the morning. Do they have a fever? Have they shown any symptoms? Do they live with anyone that's shown any symptoms? And we give everyone the opportunity to hear from their peers that they're all feeling okay. They all feel good. And if anyone shows any signs or has got anything that we are slightly concerned about, then we'll ask them to go home. And they understand that if we ask them to go home, it's for everyone's benefit.
Yeah.
We haven't had to do that.
So you're talking about clients that have stayed open throughout the time, and I understand, Sonia, you've had the similar situation. So let's start talking about, you know, the support that you guys have been having to give your clients wholesale, and some of those, how they've adapted, because I think that's really interesting to hear. Even right now, even though we're now sort of thinking that July time will be a time when most businesses will start to be better positioned to reopen, but that's still, you know, 6 weeks away potentially, maybe longer, we don't know. So finding out what other clients are doing to adapt and adjust, and successfully so, I think would be really interesting. Sonia, why don't you tell us some of the stories that you've got with some of your clients?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one, because I think everybody is taking a slightly different approach depending on what their buildings look like, or how big their workforce is. I think the smaller workforces are actually the ones that are saying, you know what, we could probably wait a little bit longer before we think about coming back. I think we found that obviously the banks have been predominantly open still, to some degree, so a lot smaller populations going through there, but we've obviously had to completely change the way that we offer services in those locations. So we're talking guards and floor markings, and making sure that we're controlling how many people come into the space. So all of these extra things, you know, that we never had to think about before, all of a sudden are just becoming common language for us, you know, the shields and everything kind of going on till points, and, you know, rethinking where you put the coffee down at the end of the barista station, and all these sorts of different things. We've started working on different code markings to help baristas communicate with, you know, bespoke beverages without having to talk to each other if they're socially distanced. And there's been a whole array of different challenges, I think, with every site. But it's really interesting kind of hearing from different clients what their thinking is. I think a lot of clients, even though the government has said July, I don't think that that's going to be realistic for all of our business. I think that some clients might venture with having a few more people back than what they've got now. But I think the majority are probably going to wait out the summer, especially with school holidays and all of that sort of thing happening. I can't see them opening for August, where they know that people are predominantly going to have you know, make childcare provisions, etc. So yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit longer for us. I mean, our venues, I think that'll be an interesting one as well, because we obviously operate a lot of venues and visitor attractions, and seeing how long those wait before those clients are ready to open, I think that'll be really interesting.
Tell me a little bit more, because you just said about the things like colour coding and positioning, because I think that's something that's, you know, you're out there doing it already. And I think that's really interesting for, you know, any coffee shop owners that are watching to hear a little bit more about. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so we've basically been coming up with different ways of structuring the team, so that when they are coming onto shift, it's really easy for them to know which tasks they should be doing to keep them socially distanced from the other baristas. Because we've just got a natural thing of, you know, going into shift, and then we obviously know that people will just revert back to the way they've always worked.
Yeah.
Which now could be a risk. So we're just kind of doing a lot of re-education with the baristas, kind of helping them have really tailored designated tasks to kind of help them keep separate. Things like every single cup having a bespoke code on it, so that people know what the customer needs or is asked for, without having to go up to each other and talk to each other. But again, we're dealing with really small numbers at the moment in those buildings. So I think it's good practice for us when we start to bring people back. But yeah, things like that have been on the list for us.
Sonia, in terms of total cups of coffee served across your business, how much are you down? Do you know roughly?
Oh, I couldn't even. You know how the volumes that we get through are insane. But I think at the moment, I'd average a guess that the sites that are still open are probably only operating at like 10%.
That's a common kind of figure that we've been hearing on all of these calls, isn't it, Max? The sort of 10%, maybe 20% max, 20% max. And Duncan, what about your clients? What are the sort of things that they've been coming to you about? And
our customers are a little bit different. We do have some corporate clients as well, but a lot of our customers are independent operators, independent cafes, coffee shops, restaurants, hotels. And actually ours is a little bit opposite to the putting the start off. In a sense, we've started to talk to our customers about they're no longer kind of adapting to survive anymore. Some of them are at the stage where they're adapting to thrive. They've moved on because, as I say, some of them have been open or haven't closed. So they found a way immediately to keep going. Mm-hmm. And over the last 3 to 4 weeks, we've seen, well, at its worst, we had 2% of our customers in business. Mm-hmm. We lost 98% of wholesale. We're probably back at 11 to 12% of the customers being back mm-hmm. now. So that equates to around about 80 or 90 customers that are open. Mm-hmm. But the volume of trade is actually higher than 10 to 20%. It's 50%. It looks like we've got 12% of our people back doing about 6% of our volume.
Right.
So that suggests that they're doing 50% roughly of what they would have been doing. But some of those guys are beyond surviving to now thriving. They've changed their business models completely.
And can you share any sort of examples of the types of things they're doing in order to thrive?
Yeah, I mean, one or two have moved to being online only, online collect or delivery only. So one in particular in Bristol, which was a very well-known restaurant, kind of a smoked barbecue restaurant, very, very good. They are busier now doing online collect and online delivery than they were ever in their heyday as a restaurant. So already, there is a huge shift. They're using a local taxi firm. They've got 18 to 20 taxis. They've given business to another part of the economy to zip their food around the city. Yeah. And they've completely changed their business model. I spoke to someone else last week, and she's done a very similar thing in the southeast. Within a week, she had an idea of having some online business. But within a week, she went from the idea to hiring 2 of her own vans, completely re-engineering her menu, and launching herself live online, including coffee. So she's found a way of, delivering lovely plates of food and coffees, which, there aren't many doing that. So they're thriving in the way that they've been through the kind of survival phase, which was largely, let's just keep selling stuff takeaway.
Yeah.
Thinking, well, how do we get our volume back? Where do we do that? How do we do that? Another one that I spoke to just today, actually, are going back, which is a large chain. They've got 26 sites across the UK, and they're opening 2 next week. They're going to take away only, but they're going to use technology platform for the first time. So they're going to go click and collect, give that a 2-week trial, do click and deliver.
Yeah.
Then they're going to do click and sit at your table and have food delivered to your table. And it's great. I know the owner of that business, and I know the owner of the business they're going to use, the platform they're going to use, and I can help to bring them all, the conversation. I can be involved in the conversation and bring some understanding to other people then as well, which is kind of what we've been doing, trying to share as much knowledge as we can, really.
That's such an interesting key word. I just read a study by McKinsey about the hospitality industry in China post-lockdown, and online orders, especially in coffee, have more than doubled, sort of pre-ordering from 12%, which is already pretty high, to now 27%, and it's pretty sticky, so we have invested in an app as well. It's an out-of-the-box solution, but it will help us greatly with pre-ordering and also retention in terms of marketing, loyalty schemes. If you can put that all onto an app and people are actually loyal to it and using it, then it's a great thing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think technology is going to be the thing that is going to be something that a lot, especially independent coffee shops, were poo-pooing and saying, no, we don't want to do pre-order and pay, we like the conversation, and now there's no choice really, is there? I mean, especially right now, if you want to have a reopening as a takeaway, and it's really interesting, Duncan, to hear about that idea of businesses completely changing and thriving from being a walk-in, sit-down, book and eat in only, to being a purely delivery. If I had that particular customer of yours, who I know it was down the road, they'd be delivering to my house quite a lot as well. I'm really gutted that we're not living in Bristol right now. But yeah, so I was going to ask you actually, Sonia, about the technology side of things in terms of, you know, insights where, you know, you have, say with the banks and with offices, and are they using technology in terms of internally to get orders through to?
We had a few sites that had signed up to use different apps, different pre-order systems, but I think now we've pretty much, so Compass have acquired a new app called Feeder, which we've been talking about a little bit on social media, and we're still kind of finessing it to work perfectly into our contracts. But yeah, essentially it is an all-purpose app for food and coffees, where you can exactly that, you kind of click and collect, or click and get it delivered to your desk. So we're working massively, as you can imagine, in the background, trying to perfect those for each individual client and how it will best fit them. Even incorporating things like evening services. So we know that a lot of people are going to be changing, you know, the times that they're going to be working moving forward. And so it's just allowing us to flex our business model as well, so that it can service those people that are going to be there, you know, a lot later into the evenings, to avoid any people, you know, things like going on public transport, etc., to avoid any of that kind of crossover. So we're just trying to, as I said, kind of, you know, really adapt to what the new kind of consumer is going to look like, the new consumer patterns are going to look like. So yeah, technology, we agree, is going to play a huge part in that.
Long before we have drones delivering.
Yeah. Well, in Milton Keynes, I'm sure there are other places that do this. I've no idea, but in Milton Keynes, they've got those little carts that deliver for you. So, you know, I'm sure they'll scale that up, and we'll get hot flat whites delivered to our door before you know it.
So, Sonia, out of interest, and feel free to say, sorry, I can't tell you because this is confidential, but how do clients communicate the new need to you? Do they say, right, we now need you guys to deliver food to the desks, and this is our budget for it? Or how does it come about, this conversation?
No, so the way that it works is that we, these are sites that we already operate. And what's really nice is actually the conversations we're having at the moment is clients are asking us, what are the solutions? And so we're going out and actively finding those. Because we've ever since we locked down, we've been working in the background trying to kind of reimagine what this new space is going to look like. And so we've been able to then go back to our clients and have some really, you know, considered conversations around what the new world looks like, and here are some solutions we think will work. So it's kind of, the conversation has been the opposite way around, where they're asking us to tell them how that should look.
There's nothing like being in a pandemic to you know, get the creative juices and solutions coming up, right? And you mentioned, Duncan, that a couple of your clients are opening new stores. So, because it suddenly struck me that, you know, are we going to start seeing new stores opening specifically designed for social distancing? Because that's one way to immediately overcome issues of small space. As you said earlier, Sonia, you know, clients with very small spaces are just unable to cope with the social distancing measures. But if you're opening a new site, or if you've got a new location, that's something you can immediately put in. Are your guys doing that? I mean, presumably, I mean, obviously they have to do social distancing, but are they purposefully designing around it? Do you know?
Well, I mean, we've got 3 customers that are opening brand new, you know, never done it before, kind of customers.
Wow.
And bizarrely, for some reason, they're all starting either on or around the 1st of June. So for some reason, the 1st of June seems to be, you know, the month of June seems to be a motivation. I think partly because people want to get going early, and so they want to make a bit of a name for themselves. They want their reputation to grow. They want to establish custom, and then if others come in July, then, you know, in a better place. So I think that's partly it. But the 3 that are starting from scratch, they, you know, it's a great thing to feel the confidence of that, because they are new to the industry in a sense. They've done an awful lot of planning, and we've spent a lot of time working with them to get to this point. But I suppose one thing we have been doing with them, which is interesting, is that we did some of the consultancy with them on the bar design in the first place, just to help them along. And we've been revisiting some of that just to think about, you know, what Sonia mentioned, you know, how do you make sure that your people are safe working? So we've revisited some of the working flows. So the point is that they're going to have customers coming to them for the first time that don't have to adjust. They're not going to have to adjust to a new way of doing anything. You know, last month they used to come here and do this. They'll just get used to it from the get-go. But the main thing that we've had to think about with them is how do we train them? You know, how do we get them to a point where they are ready to go serve coffee? Because, you know, not that straightforward. You know, it's not that straightforward. And, you know, we're very adamant that before you take the product from us and you can go and serve it, you've got to be fully trained. You've got to know exactly what you're doing with the machine, with the coffee, how to get the best out of it. So, you know, there's two things we're doing. One is we've found a way, like most have, we've really engaged our customer in how to home barista, so home barista video, which we're going to extend that to the professional barista. That's relatively straightforward. But we're also doing a bunch of work at the moment at the roastery, where we are basically creating now what was going to be a set-up kind of demo bar to bring customers to. But we've quickly decided actually that's not what it's going to be. It's going to be a little film studio. So we're creating a little film studio kind of as I speak, where we will be set up specifically for training. Right. So we can film either live, we'll book some live sessions in so that you've got two-way, you know, question and answer, but also just pre-recorded. Yeah. So that's happening now. We're building a mezzanine, we're building that right now. And that for us, I think will be certainly a short to medium term solution to getting people trained and, you know, up to speed really.
And actually that brings up another really good point around training, because at some point in the near future, there are going to be new baristas entering existing businesses, and there are going to be new businesses that require training. And I've been through the SCA training, and it's really hard, and you do need someone sometimes helping you, particularly with the milk foaming and particularly with, you know, latte art, helping you know exactly where to. It looks like I'm doing strange things with my arms, but I'm just positioning the jug and everything. It's because my hands are down. So how, aside from obviously all the good things that you've just described, Duncan, what else can people do to help with training? Because socially 2 meters apart, a trainer can't physically show someone up close how to do it anymore, can they? So how do we get around that? I mean, that's just an open-ended question. I don't mind which person.
Well, look, one thing, Sonia, I'm sure you've got some good ideas too, but one thing that we've got an installation next week on Wednesday, I think, for one of these new customers. So we're installing the machine. So it'll be a first time install. It'll be a first time how to dial in coffee. It'll be a first time everything. So, you know, at that installation, we will also, because we can do that safely and distance is no problem. We'll take that opportunity to do some immediate kind of training, two meter distance training. And, you know, that will be certainly for the time being, to get started at least, any kind of physical person to person training. It can still happen to some degree, but it's got to be done. You've got to pick your moments to do it. What it means is that the role of an account manager, someone that's running helping our customers, the role of that person changes. You know, that the role of that person, what they do and how they do it changes. So I think doing it at the right time. If we're doing an install, let's double up the time. You know, let's make a double purpose to our time. You know, we're making the most out of one person's visit.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, I guess you can verbally guide someone to tilt a little bit more or tilt a little bit less, or, you know, pull back or whatever. Did you have any other sort of solutions or suggestions that you've seen or implemented, Sonia?
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously got similar challenges because although we've got loads of baristas, they obviously haven't made coffee in ages. And I think there's only so much that you can kind of teach and coach via a video or a live feed. But exactly like Duncan, we're going to be doing that as well. But I think it's a lot of trial and error for the new guys coming on board. So it's about us potentially having smaller groups. So maybe only 1 or 2 people being trained at a time, so that they can actually have some time on a machine where we're socially distancing from them. And, you know, we're looking at each other's milk examples and kind of going, this is what you don't do, as opposed to this is how you do it right. I think that's an easier way to teach. But Also, just kind of, for me personally, with the milk seeming in particular, just advising them on what the milk needs to look like when you're seeming it. So the movement that the milk needs to make. As soon as they understand that and they've seen it, I think it's just practice again. So yeah, I think that's the only way really we're going to get around it.
And so what about any businesses that have started to go back? So I know, Max, you've got one store that's been open how many weeks now?
Third week now.
So how's it going?
It's going all right. In the first week, we did sort of 15% of regular trade, but we're now up to just over double that. And that takes us to the place where it washes its face and isn't just serving the community, but also helping us out in slowly unfurloughing staff and getting people back into a work routine. Also in terms of supplies, we've now got close to our regular offering. I mean, we don't obviously do anything sit-in, and any food that would need to be prepared, we're not doing. It's all takeaway only. But the moment that we introduced food, we realized immediately people were getting croissants and loaf cakes and sandwiches, and I'm really thankful to just have that again. And it's great to see queues. They always look a lot longer than they actually are, but yeah, it's great to see that people are appreciating that again.
And how are the staff coping with it? How are they dealing with the changes in how they are able to work?
I think, well, first of all, it's quite clear that you cannot socially distance staff who are working together, right? If you're working on the same machine and in the same enclosed space, it's like sharing a flat, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But I think once you've gotten beyond that, it's fine. I mean, I guess operators that have a lot of staff are going to be less likely to have rotas that are going across a lot. I think they'll try and keep the same teams in the same places, because it's about safety of your staff, and it's also about well-being. If you constantly change the people that you're working with, then it's maybe an uncomforting thing. And we've had different kinds of feedback. I mean, we've had some staff tell us, look, I'm in a risk group, or I'm living with someone who's in a high risk group. I don't feel comfortable quite yet going back to work. And of course, the last thing we would say is, you're unfurloughed, you have to. At this stage, that's not appropriate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've got staff, luckily, who say, look, I've been stuck at home for 6 weeks. I want to get back into it. I want to get back into a routine. I can't wait. And so yeah, those are obviously the ones that have been operating our one store so far.
So and Duncan, have you got any sort of coffee shops and businesses that have started to slowly reopen? So not the ones obviously that have adapted and changed, but ones that may have gone back to a reopening 1 or 2 stores to start. Yeah, and how have they been coping, changing, working?
Yeah, we had a customer that we have on Bermondsey Street, just in London, and he opened 2 weekends ago, and they started off doing 3 days: Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 6 hours a day. They needed to hit, I think their little business model said they needed to hit 80, 90 coffees a day, and actually they hit 200 a day. And so they then decided, okay, we'll go again the second weekend. And now actually they're already back to 6 days, and they're open till 8 p.m.
Wow.
So, and they're not, it's a small store. They like most places, they've covered the doorway, so you can't get in. So that's the service hatch.
Yeah.
But so what they've done is they've done a bit of surviving to get going, but now they're at the thrive stage. And what they're doing is, because they're famous also for their espresso martinis and their cocktails. They're an evening trade. He on weekend 1, he was doing takeaway espresso martinis in little plastic cups, and he had 2 people that walked an hour. They did an hour walk to go and get their takeaway espresso martini.
Wow.
Sit on the green opposite his shop. But in a week, he's now bottling it. So he's gone from just doing it in takeaway cups to finding a way that he can bottle his cocktail and he can sell it. So he's kind of survived and thrived in about 7 days. Well, 10 days. about 10 days.
Sorry.
But I think, you know, that's one in London. The guys that are opening, that I mentioned, reopening 2 stores next week. They have a number of stores. They're going to open these 2. They're going to trial it, and you know, they'll make some further business decisions based on that trial. And I think that's what people are doing. They're giving it a go. And that's the one thing about the hospitality industry that I've always found, is that I don't think there's a better bunch of people as an industry to just have that kind of mental resource to just do it, find a way of making it work.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a better place for the industry to come out of it, really, the people within it and the mentality.
Yeah, I agree. And I think you're right. In terms of the types of people it takes to work in our industry, we tend to be fairly resilient, and we're not afraid of hard work, because it is really hard work. And it's good to hear that, because obviously, Max, you've been trialing your store, and actually I think that's the right approach, isn't it? Is to trial, see what works, see how you can, and actually I don't think you need to stop adapting at this stage, because we still don't know when the sort of true reopening is going to be, or what that even looks like. And from what you see in the news and what I'm observing in terms of trade news, that's what a lot of the bigger guys are doing at the end of the day. A lot of the bigger sort of chains are all trialing themselves, and if they're trialing, then that's exactly the same, you know, it's the same attitude to take.
Absolutely. And also a bit of, sorry to jump in there, longevity in trials. I remember the first time when we were talking about reopening one of the stores, me with my austerity hat on, I was like, I want to try the maximum of 3 days. We have to conserve cash. We have to be careful. And then both Ruby, our ops manager, as well as Ted, just looked at me and said, Max, in 3 days, you'll learn absolutely nothing. Nobody will even know that we're open. We have to do this for at least 2 weeks to see any results. And they were right. They proved me wrong. And after 2 weeks, it slowly trickles in, and you get your regulars back.
And I'll repeat again, I mean, I said this last week, and you know, obviously those people that are taking part in the benchmarking will get the report and see, but already what nearly everyone is saying is the expectation is 50% of trade after 3 months, and actually it may even be quicker than that, because from what you're saying, Max, you know, you're up to 30% within 3 weeks. So, you know, within another couple of weeks, you could be pushing up towards that 50% mark. And that seems to be the sort of the figure at which most people are anticipating their trade to be at. So, and actually for some, like some of the clients that you've described, Duncan, it seems like it's, you know, above and beyond that. So, I think
above and beyond the revised P&L model that they created. You know, so they've reformed what they think they can do, and it's above and beyond that.
I have a quick question with regards to takeaway cups to Sonia, actually, because I know, Sonia, a lot of your clients are very sustainability focused and sort of have no takeaway cups policies. And now that's getting reversed almost overnight, isn't it? Or have you guys had any workarounds or other suggestions there?
It's been an interesting one. We've had a few ideas of things we could do, but yeah, you're right, Max. It's one of the biggest challenges for us, because we made so much headway with clients last year in making that journey, removing disposables, going to crockery. You know, a lot of our clients issued their entire workforce with keep cups, which we're now saying we don't want to risk anyone by accepting them. So we're exploring different things at the moment. Nothing is a guaranteed solution, but we're looking at you know, different holders and things that we can kind of put in place. And some of our smaller sites have agreed to sort of trial that on a small basis to see whether that's something that we could scale up. But it's still for us very much on the agenda to try and find a solution that kind of goes with all of the environmental work, you know, that complements all the environmental work that we did leading up to the pandemic. So,
Duncan, you were going to say something.
No, I guess just my sort of summary really was that the thing that's given me just confidence in us as a bunch of people really is the level of community stuff that's still happening, and you know, the engagement with still trying to do the right thing. And I know Max that's you know, his business is to some degree founded on that, and I know that Sonia is and those guys are still doing it, and we are too, and our customers are too. And it's just that's one of the things that even in this situation for me, that where people are struggling, you know, financially, they're struggling, you know, with probably mental health issues, I'm sure at the moment with their business. A lot of them are still finding a way of doing incredible things with their local communities and supporting initiatives, charities, in some cases more than they ever did. So Yeah, maybe that's Anya, maybe that's a subject of your next session. But it's something that's given me a lot of hope, really, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's a really nice thing to be focused on, because we will be doing a social impact episode in a couple of weeks, I believe, Max. I can't remember the exact date. But you're right, in terms of just general community work, we are, it seems, as a country, we've become even more community focused than we were ever before, and we were already getting there. And actually the question around the cups is also quite interesting in terms of our environmental focus, because I think as an industry we've been very community and environmentally focused, and now we want to be environmentally focused, but we can't. And but we can be even more community focused, and I think that is a really good takeaway. And I hope that along with some of the exciting new business ideas that companies have come out with, they also stick with some of the really good community stuff that they've been doing as well. And I personally think they will. The good ones will anyway. Thank you so much, guys. It's been really lovely, really good. I feel like I'm being hugged by this episode. It's such a good feeling. Thank you. To those of you who are viewing this and this is your first time, please subscribe. You'll get more of these episodes coming up. And as long as we're in lockdown, there'll be lockdown coffee. Please like it, please share it, do the right thing. Make sure as many people who are in the same position as we are all get to hear some of these great stories. And thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Duncan. And thank you, Max. And stay safe.